Because there are so few female characters in The Lord of the Rings, people assume that Tolkien's portrayal of the fairer sex must be misogynistic, or at the very least, lacking. Arwen is just a love interest for Aragorn, Galadriel just an excuse to expand on the lore of the elves, and Eowyn, well, she's actually not half bad. But I think the female characters of The Lord of the Rings are actually good characters, and despite their limited presence in the stories, they manage to embody the feminine mythos and ideals. I must admit that after making my video about masculine heroism in Lord of the Rings, I struggled to make this one. I like Arwen and Galadriel, but to be honest, they aren't really the focus of the trilogy. Even Eowyn only has about 20 minutes of screen time across all 3 films. But what I realized is that the scope of a narrative does not inherently determine the depths of its characters. And while these 3 women do not have massive character arcs on screen, they are implied. So, to try and demonstrate the breadth of feminine ethos in Lord of the Rings, and demonstrate how these characters embody the feminine ideal, I want to focus on 3 specific roles, namely that of sister, mother, and queen, and show how these 3 women embody each. One of the clearest examples of a great female character in The Lord of the Rings is Eowyn. Shield Maiden of Rohan, niece to King Theoden, the woman who fearlessly faces the undead Witch King, and the sister to Eomer. And while this role of sister is only mentioned in passing, her position as sister amidst a world of brothers is important to note, especially when considering her character arc. In my last video, we explored the concept that The Lord of the Rings is a story about brotherhood, specifically the Brotherhood of War. And if I'm right, Eowyn is out of place in this context, not just as a woman, but as a woman who wishes to join this unique brotherhood.
War is the province of men, Eowyn.
She's a sister who strives to be a brother, to die a death of glory rather than to fulfill the duties given her.
Women of this country learned long ago. Those without swords can still die upon them. I fear neither death nor pain.
What do you fear, my lady?
A cage.
Eowyn's character arc has not simply to do with her ability to fight, but with the recognition that she cannot join the sacred brotherhood she sees around her. Rather, she must serve a different role. Ironically, Eowyn comes to peace with this concept through union with another forsaken sibling, another misguided follower of the philosophy of this vain glory in death, Faramir. Eowyn is not simply a woman who wishes to be awarded the same respect that's awarded men, but an only daughter, a sister, alone in the world of brothers, and alone in a time of war and heartbreak. She is forced to despair. She rushes off to satisfy her death wish in battle because she cannot bear to watch the darkness overtaking Middle-earth with nothing to do about it. And when she finally meets Faramir, they heal one another of their shared pain, and look to the future with a sense of hope. A hope that Eowyn, after learning the ways of healing herself, devotes her life to bringing to others. Which brings me to the role of mother. This sounds strange to say, but there are very few mothers in The Lord of the Rings. And of the few shown on screen, Arwen is the most important one that comes to mind. In the books, Arwen is not really a character at all. She's mentioned briefly, and mainly in the appendices of the novel as opposed to the main body. She is a goal to be attained, someone to whom Aragorn can return home, and for whom he can fight, a symbol of the union between the races of elves and men. a living sign of hope. So, just like I did with Aragorn, I'm going to mainly focus on her portrayal in the films. Not because the same concepts aren't present in Tolkien's work, but because they're just much easier to analyze in the Jackson adaptation.
She has a very small part to play in the books if you simply look at the number of pages that Arwen is in. And in order to make her a character with some weight, we have had to create more material for Arwen.
In The Lord of the Rings, Arwen does not have children yet. But the central decision and character moment that occurs for her in the narrative directly revolves around the promise and possibility of her future child.
You saw there was a child. You saw my son.
That future is almost gone.
But it is not lost.
See, Arwen chooses to remain in Middle-earth instead of migrating with the rest of the elves into the Grey Havens. And with this choice, she chooses love over isolation, pain over peace, danger over safety, and ultimately, mortality over immortality. And she does this for the future of Middle-earth, for her love for Aragorn, and for their future son.
Lady Arwen, we cannot delay. My lady!
See, this sacrifice encapsulates the majesty of motherhood in a special way. It gives unique meaning to what I see as the greatest challenge of parenthood, and especially motherhood. The sacrifice of one's own self. Because when you are a parent, your life is no longer wholly your own. You now have someone in your life who is more important than you are, and for whom you must persevere and provide. You have a legacy to protect. In motherhood specifically, this reality becomes apparent before your child is even born. Your body ceases to be wholly your own, and to a great extent, you have to literally sacrifice your physical self to provide for the child inside of you. Parents choose a life of pain because of the fruit that it bears and the hope that it promises. And while Arwen is not the focus of the Lord of the Rings story, in just a few scenes, the complexity and heroism of her character are made clear through this maternal sacrifice. Arwen chooses love and the hope of an age to come. She represents the all-encompassing sacrificial love of motherhood, as wife and a mother, and even as the Queen of Gondor. Which, of course, brings me to the third feminine archetype, the archetype of queen. The role of a queen is often mischaracterized in fantasy, pop culture, and media. In a culture that refuses to recognize any difference between men and women, the unique utility of the queen is often lost. In Sparta, queens owned land in their own name. The inheritance was passed on through women, and women possessed great political power. In the Holy Roman Empire, queens issued important documents, presided over court and legal proceedings, and settled disputes among their subjects. And in England, queens issued grants of land, received monetary payments, and even approved funding for household retainers or military actions. My point is that in the real world, while queens rarely took up arms, they had immense political power, and they often shaped the kingdom as much as the king. Which is why Galadriel is the perfect embodiment of queenship in The Lord of the Rings. She is powerful, influential, and regal. In fact, Galadriel is the very first character to speak in the Lord of the Rings films, delivering one of the most famous prologues in film history.
The world is changed. I feel it in the water. I feel it in the earth. I smell it in the air.
Galadriel stands as a connection to the past, to the myth and majesty of the story of the creation of the ring, and one of the last remaining elves in Middle-earth. She is not just politically powerful, or even magically powerful, but stands as this mystical beacon of light for the Fellowship.
They say that a great sorceress lives in these woods. An elf witch. Of terrible power.
She is a woman with grace, an especially powerful feminine trait. And this grace is masterfully demonstrated throughout her scenes, and especially in her temptation by the ring. See, Galadriel is not immune to the powers of darkness. She is drawn to them like everyone else, but she has mastered her own self and her own evil desires. And the result of this self-mastery is that she can withstand the draw of the ring outright. She holds great power and the potential of even greater power, and yet does not lust for it. She possesses self-mastery, prudence, and justice, the qualities of a good queen. She watches over not only her people, but all those who come seeking her guidance, including the Fellowship. And her gifts continue this theme of queenship throughout the Fellowship's journey. Galadriel does not simply offer aid that is asked for, but aid that is needed.
I heard her voice inside my head. She spoke of my father and the fall of Gondor. She said to me, even now there is hope left.
Hope for Boromir, light for Frodo, a cloak of invisibility, elven daggers for the hobbits, the elven brooches that all of the members of the Fellowship wear. And as this group continues, these tools act as a silent testament to her power, providing grace and an aid to each and every member along the way. It's not incorrect to say that The Lord of the Rings is a story primarily about men. It certainly focuses on the masculine ideal, but it's not a story just for men. It's a transcendent one. A story which portrays the conflict of good and evil, both internal and external. A struggle to which all of us can relate. And despite the minority of female characters, these transcendent ideals remain constant. Tolkien's characters bring to life the beauty and the ugliness of our human nature, and the human condition belongs to both men and women. His characters offer both warnings and comforts, but most importantly, they show us what it means to be great men and women. And Eowyn, Arwen, and Galadriel, to be a sister, a mother, and a queen. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're interested in supporting more videos like this and some of the other story work that we're doing, please feel free to check out our memberships linked in the description down below. And as always, no matter what you do, keep reading, keep writing, and I will see you all in the next video.